Buffalo, we need to talk. Because something happened this week at St. John Fisher University that Bills Mafia has been waiting years to see. And no, it wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a highlight reel throw from Josh Allen. It was rain. Cold, miserable, get-in-your-bones rain pouring down on a practice field at 8:30 in the morning. And somehow that soggy, uncomfortable mess might be the most important storyline of the entire Buffalo Bills offseason. Let that sink in for a second. A rainstorm on day one, and the new head coach was thrilled about it. Welcome to the Joe Brady era. If you're a Bills fan, you already know the pain. 7 straight playoff appearances, heartbreak after heartbreak. Kansas City looming over this franchise like a curse that refuses to lift. Sean McDermott built something real in Buffalo, nobody's arguing that, but respectable was never the goal. The goal was a parade. And after yet another gut punch of a season, ownership finally said enough is enough. McDermott is out. Joe Brady, the former offensive coordinator who helped turn Josh Allen into an MVP-caliber quarterback, is in. And from the very first morning of training camp, it is abundantly clear this is not going to be business as usual in Orchard Park. So let's set the scene, because the symbolism here is almost too perfect. Training camp opened this week, and the forecast was ugly. Heavy rain, uncomfortable, sloppy conditions, exactly the kind of day a lot of coaches would have moved indoors without a second thought. Not Joe Brady. He kept his team outside, on a rain-soaked field, running a practice that lasted under 2 hours instead of the usual longer sessions Bills fans have grown used to. And when reporters asked him about it afterward, Brady didn't dodge the moment. He leaned into it. He basically said this is exactly what he wanted. First day, morning practice, pouring rain, that's the tone he's trying to set. He wants his football team to be tough. He wants them to be gritty. He wants them to stop looking for the easy way out, because come January, when the temperature drops and the stakes go through the roof, there is no easy way out. Think about the message that sends to a locker room. You're not just installing a new offense or defense. You're installing a new mentality. And there is no better classroom for toughness than standing in the freezing rain at 8:30 in the morning, running full speed and being told, keep going. Don't slow down. If you mess up, line up again and attack the next rep. That was the theme running through the entire first practice: speed, pace, and relentless energy, even when execution wasn't perfect. And it wasn't just coach speak. Players noticed it immediately. One veteran on the offensive line pointed directly at the tempo change, saying the emphasis wasn't on being flawless, it was on moving fast and never stopping, mistakes and all. That's not a small detail. That's a philosophy. Under the old regime, camp practices in Pittsburgh had a certain rhythm, a certain pace that Bills fans had come to know over nearly a decade. This year, that rhythm has been ripped up and rebuilt from scratch. Practices are starting earlier in the day, moved up more than an hour compared to years past, specifically so players aren't sitting down to dinner late at night. It sounds like a small scheduling tweak. It's not. It's Joe Brady restructuring the entire daily culture of this football team, one detail at a time. But here's where it gets really interesting, because not everyone in the building agrees on how different this camp actually feels. And that disagreement itself tells you something important. When you ask people around the team whether this year feels like a genuine reset, you get a split answer. Some insist that, at the end of the day, football is football. You're still at the same facility, the grass is still green, the same franchise quarterback is still slinging it around, so how different can it really feel? Others, though, swear they can feel something in the air. A new tempo, a new energy, a different flow to every single period of practice. And that tension between it's still the Bills and no, this is genuinely new, might be the most honest way to describe where this franchise is right now. The bones are familiar. The soul is being renovated. And Josh Allen himself has been remarkably candid about it. This is a guy entering his 9th training camp as a professional. 9th, He has done this dance more times than almost anyone else on that roster. And yet, by his own admission, this camp feels like year one of something completely different. Not because the calendar reset, but because the losing formula, the one that kept ending in agonizing near misses, finally got scrapped. Allen has talked about needing change, about how change isn't always comfortable, and about how sometimes you don't fully know if a change was worth it until you're standing on the other side of it. But the key phrase, the one that should stick with every single Bills fan watching this unfold, is this: something had to give. What they were doing wasn't getting them where they wanted to go. So they're doing something different. Full stop. That's not just a quarterback being diplomatic in a press conference. That's a franchise player publicly signing off on tearing down the old approach and trusting a new voice to rebuild it. And let's talk about that new voice for a second, because Joe Brady is walking into a fascinating situation. He's not a total outsider parachuting into a locker room full of strangers. He spent the last several years as Buffalo's offensive coordinator, working hand-in-hand with Josh Allen, helping mold him into one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in football. So there's continuity there, real, established trust between a head coach and his franchise quarterback. But now Brady also has to be something he's never been before, the man in charge of the entire operation, offense, defense, and everything in between. And on the defensive side, the changes are just as dramatic. Buffalo is walking away from the scheme it ran for nearly a decade and shifting toward a completely different defensive structure, with a new coordinator installing his own system from the ground up. New head coach, new defensive identity, new tempo, new stadium on the horizon. It is, in almost every sense of the phrase, a full reset. Even the camp schedule itself has been reshaped to fit the moment. In years past, teams like Buffalo would spend a long stretch away at their camp facility, with players getting stretches of time off in between sessions. This year, that structure has been intentionally shortened. Brady referenced how other franchises handle it too, teams that go away for a shorter, more concentrated stretch rather than a long, sprawling camp with built-in breaks. The idea is simple. Less time apart means more bonding, tighter chemistry, and a locker room that gels faster instead of drifting in and out of the building for days at a time. And because St. John Fisher is only about an hour away from the team's home turf, Buffalo gets the best of both worlds. A real away camp feel for focus and connection without players being cut off from home for weeks on end. But maybe the most fascinating layer to all of this is the elephant in the room: the brand new stadium. Buffalo is getting ready to open a massive $2.1 billion stadium in Orchard Park, and that changes everything about how this team prepares. In years past, camp at St. John Fisher would run on a familiar extended track because the team was heading back to a stadium they'd played in for decades. Muscle memory, routine, nothing to figure out. This year is different. There's a brand new game day environment to learn. New locker rooms, new logistics, new routines for how a Sunday unfolds from the moment players walk in the door to the moment they take the field. So instead of clinging to a longer, traditional camp schedule out of habit, Brady and the front office made a calculated decision: get back to Orchard Park sooner, start living in that new building, and let the team build familiarity with their new home before the lights actually come on for real. It's not that the Bills love Fisher any less, it's that there's a bigger priority this year. And that priority is making sure Josh Allen and this team feel completely at home when the Bills throw open the doors of their new stadium for the first time. Now let's zoom out for a second, because there's a bigger, more emotional thread running underneath all of this roster and schedule talk. And it's about mindset. For years, Buffalo has carried an enormous weight into every single season. Every offseason story, every training camp headline, every press conference eventually circles back to the same painful question: will this finally be the year the Bills get past Kansas City? Will this finally be the year Josh Allen hoists a Lombardi trophy? And look, that hunger is completely understandable. But there's a real danger in letting that big-picture pressure consume the entire season before it even starts. You can't spend August obsessing over a hypothetical AFC Championship rematch in January. You have to focus on getting a little bit better every single day in the moment you're actually in. Enjoy the process. Trust the grind. Because ironically, obsessing over the finish line is often exactly what keeps a team from reaching it. That's part of what makes Brady's year one for everybody framing so smart. Yes, Josh Allen has 9 years of NFL training camps under his belt. But this specific version of the Buffalo Bills, this coaching staff, this scheme, this identity, has 0 years of experience together. Everybody, from the 9th-year franchise quarterback to the rookies fighting for a roster spot, is starting from the exact same blank page. That's a powerful equalizer in a locker room. Nobody gets to coast on reputation. Everybody has to prove, right now, in the mud and the rain, that they belong in this new era. And speaking of proving things, Buffalo isn't done shaping this roster. Not even close. This is where things get really juicy for Bills Mafia, because there's a name buzzing around the league that could dramatically raise the ceiling of this offense: Keenan Allen. Now, let's be crystal clear about something up front. There is no confirmed contract offer here. No reported visit, no done deal in place. This is speculation, and it should be treated exactly like that. But the hypothetical fit is absolutely worth talking through, because on paper, it makes a lot of sense. Keenan Allen has built an entire NFL career on precision. He's not the fastest receiver on the field, and he's never needed to be. His superpower is route running, the ability to sell a defender on one direction and break in another, to find soft spots in zone coverage, to manipulate a cornerback's leverage until there's suddenly 3 yards of daylight exactly when the quarterback needs it. That is an incredibly valuable skill set for a Buffalo offense that already has plenty of speed and playmaking, but could always use another steady, chain-moving weapon on third down. Think about the receiver room as it currently stands. DJ Moore gives this offense a legitimate outside threat, a proven veteran who can win down the field. Khalil Shakir has quietly become one of the most reliable options on the roster, a guy who racks up yards after the catch and rarely lets the ball hit the ground when it's thrown his way. Keon Coleman brings size and physical upside, a big-bodied target who can win contested catches. It's a talented group, but none of them play the game quite like a savvy, veteran slot technician who has spent over a decade making his living in the chess match between receiver and cornerback. Now picture this: 3rd and 7. Playoff football, pressure bearing down, the pocket starting to collapse around Josh Allen. In moments like that, having a receiver who instinctively knows exactly where the soft spot in the defense is going to open up could be the difference between a season-saving conversion and another agonizing 3 and out. That is the exact scenario Keenan Allen has thrived in for years. He could line up in the slot, motion around the formation, and give Joe Brady an entirely new tool for attacking linebackers and safeties in coverage, problems this offense hasn't always had a clean answer for in the biggest moments. There's also a mentorship angle here that shouldn't be overlooked. A young receiver room can learn an enormous amount just by watching a veteran like this operate day-to-day, how to disguise a route before the snap, how to attack a defender's leverage, how to adjust on the fly when the coverage shifts after the ball is snapped. Those are the tiny details that separate a talented receiver from a truly dangerous one, and they're notoriously difficult to teach unless you've got someone in the room who's lived it for years. Of course, Buffalo would need to be smart about it. Keenan Allen isn't a young player anymore, so any potential deal would need to come with team-friendly, sensible terms. The front office would have to seriously evaluate his health, clearly define exactly what role he'd be asked to play, and make absolutely sure the receiver room doesn't become overcrowded with too many mouths competing for not enough targets. This can't be about chasing a recognizable name just to make headlines. It has to be about genuinely building the most complete, most dangerous version of this offense around Josh Allen, and if the front office believes Keenan Allen can still separate, still move the chains on third down, and still contribute in a smart, limited role, then it's a conversation absolutely worth having. Because here's the bottom line, Buffalo. This new era cannot just be about a punchier practice schedule or an earlier wake-up call. It has to be about genuinely changing the way this franchise attacks its championship window while Josh Allen is still playing at an MVP level. The biggest coaching change of the Allen era has already happened. The brand new stadium is right around the corner. But neither of those things on their own is going to erase years of playoff heartbreak. Only winning does that. And winning starts exactly where we began this video, in the mud, in the rain, at 8:30 in the morning with a brand new head coach demanding a level of toughness this roster has never been asked for before. Buffalo doesn't need to forget every painful January. It needs to learn from every single one of them without getting trapped by the memory. This is supposed to be year one of a new chapter. And if this organization truly believes that, then nothing should be off the table. Not the practice schedule, not the coaching staff, not even the receiver room, if it means finally giving Josh Allen the supporting cast he needs to finish the job. So Bills Mafia, I want to hear it from you directly. Is Keenan Allen the final piece this offense has been missing? Or is Buffalo's receiver room already loaded enough to get this team over the hump without adding another name? Drop your take in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to stay locked in on everything happening at Bills training camp this summer, do me a favor, smash that like button. Drop a comment with your prediction for this season and subscribe so you never miss a single update as this new era unfolds. Buffalo, this is officially year one. Let's see what Joe Brady builds.